Welcome to the Ultimate Sports Podcast. Today is Monday, September 23rd, 2019. Today I'm going to recap NFL Week 3 and look ahead to tonight's game between the Redskins and the Bears. College football, look at the scores from the weekend, go over some takeaways there. Baseball games from yesterday, look ahead to tonight's games. WNBA playoff games from yesterday. One series is over. One series is going to a fourth game. We'll get into that. Week 5 college football, guess the lines, and best bet of the day. But, of course, we have to start with football because that was the most notable thing that went on yesterday. Week 3 of the NFL. We'll go through all the games. We're going to start the 1 o'clock games and work our way to the 4 o'clock games and close it out with the Sunday night games. How am I saying Friday night? That's just weird. All right. Bills over the Bengals 27-21. Bills were up 14-0 in this game. Bengals came back and actually took the lead, and then the Bills recovered, and Josh Allen and the Bills get the go-ahead touchdown to stay unbeaten at 3-0. Cincinnati's 0-3. Josh Allen, 23 of 36, 243 yards, a touchdown and the pick. Andy Dalton, 20 of 36, 249 yards, a touchdown, and 2 picks. Cowboys over the Dolphins, 31-6. The Cowboys go to 3-0. The Dolphins go to 0-3. Dak Prescott, 19 of 32, 246 yards, 2 touchdowns and a pick. Josh Rosen, 18 of 39, 200 yards. Cowboys were mediocre in the first half, pulled away, looked like the team we know that they are in the second half. Packers over the Broncos, 27-16. Green Bay 3-0, Denver 0-3. Aaron Rodgers, 17 of 29, 235 yards and a touchdown. Joe Flacco, 20 of 29, 213 yards and an interception. Colts over the Falcons, 27-24. Indy is 2-1. Atlanta 1-2. Jacoby Brissett, 28 of 37, 310 yards and 2 touchdowns. Matt Ryan, 29 of 34, 304 yards, 3 touchdowns and an interception. Chiefs over the Ravens, 33-28. The Chiefs 3-0. Baltimore 2-1. Patrick Mahomes, 27 of 37, 374 yards and 3 touchdowns. Lamar Jackson, 22 of 43 and 267 yards. Vikings over the Raiders, 34-14. The Vikings are 2-1. The Raiders are 1-2. Kirk Cousins, 15 of 21, 174 yards and a touchdown. Derek Carr, 27 of 34, 242 yards, 2 touchdowns, and an interception. Patriots over the Jets, 30-14. The Pats are 3-0. The Jets are 0-3. Tom Brady, 28 of 42, 306 yards and 2 touchdowns. Luke Falk, 12 of 22, 98 yards and an interception. So, not a good game for the new Jets starting quarterback. And the 2 touchdowns were actually defensive touchdowns. Lions over the Eagles, 27-24. Detroit's 2-1. Philly 1-2. Matt Stafford, 18 of 32, 201 yards and a touchdown. Carson Wentz, 19 of 36, 259 yards and 2 touchdowns. Panthers over the Cardinals, 38-20. The Panthers are 1-2. Arizona's 0-2-1. Kyle Allen with a nice debut for the season. 19 of 26, 261 yards and 4 touchdowns. He actually had his first career start against the Saints in Week 17 last year. I think a lot of people that listen to this probably don't remember that. Kyler Murray, 30 of 43, 173 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 2 picks. So Kyler looked like a rookie. Meanwhile, you know who did not look like a rookie quarterback at times yesterday? Daniel Jones. As in his first start, the Giants defeat the Tampa Bay Buccaneers 32-31. Yes, the Giants got lucky because Matt Gay missed a field goal that would have won the Bucs the game. That went wide right, 34-yarder. And the Giants hang on the win. They're 1-2. Tampa's 1-2. Jones, in his debut, 23 of 36, 336 yards and 2 touchdowns and 2 rushing touchdowns. Jameis Winston, 23 of 37, 380 yards, 3 touchdowns, and an interception. Texans over the Chargers, 27-20. A nice win for the Texans. They're 2-1. LA's 1-2. Deshaun Watson, 25 of 34, 351 yards and 3 touchdowns. Phil Rivers, 31 of 46, 318 yards and 2 touchdowns. 49ers over the Steelers, 24-20. 49ers 3-0. Pittsburgh 0-3. Jimmy Garoppolo, 23 of 32, 277 yards, a touchdown, 2 picks. Mason Rudolph, 14 of 27, 174 yards, 2 touchdowns, and a pick. I think that San Francisco is lucky to win this game yet again. They had a couple turnovers. Pittsburgh just couldn't get in the end zone, and Mason Rudolph did not look very good at all. So I guess the 49ers defense deserves a little bit of credit there too. Saints over the Seahawks, 33-27. New Orleans is 2-1. Seattle's 2-1. Teddy Bridgewater, 19 of 27, 177 yards and 2 touchdowns. Russell Wilson, 32 of 50, 406 yards and 2 touchdowns. A lot of Wilson's stats came in garbage time. And to Russ's credit, he kind of brought the Seahawks back and made that score look a little relevant. But the reality is that the Saints were the team that ended up victorious, and they did it without Drew Brees. Alvin Kamara had a big game for them, obviously. Rams over the Browns 20-13 on Sunday Night Football. The Rams 3-0. Cleveland 1-2. Jared Goff 24-38, 269 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 2 picks. Baker Mayfield 18-36, 195 yards, a touchdown, and a pick. Tonight you have the Bears at the Redskins, 8:15 ESPN. Joe Tessitore, along with Booger McFarland and Lisa Salters. Bears favored by 5.5. I picked the Bears to win the game by a score of 26-13 on Friday's podcast. I'm going to stand to it, and I think the Bears cover, and I like the under as well. And one more thing, I would not rule out the possibility of next Sunday when the Redskins go to the Giants. Let's say Case Keenum sucks against the Bears defense, which I think is a realistic possibility. I could see them going to Haskins next week against a Giant defense that is not good by any stretch of the imagination. Although it stepped up in the second half against the Bucs, so gave up a grand total of 3 points. Let the Giants get themselves in a position to come back and win the game, although all the credit's going to be given to Jones, and rightfully so. But the Bears defense is not obviously not as bad as the Giants defense, and it's obviously one of the better defenses in the league. So if Keenum struggles, I would not be surprised to see Haskins in there next week against the New York Football Giants in MetLife Stadium. And it'd be fitting for Haskins because Haskins obviously wanted to be drafted by the Giants, and he was open about it, and the Giants obviously wanted to go with Daniel Jones. And so far, the Giants look like geniuses right now. All right, college football scores from the weekend. We'll start with Friday night. A couple big ones. You had Louisiana Tech defeating FIU 43-31. Louisiana Tech is 3-1, FIU 1-3. USC over number 10 Utah 30-23. USC on their third string quarterback. They're 3-1, and so is Utah. The Boise State Broncos, 20th in the country, defeat Air Force 30-19. Boise is 3-0. Air Force 2-1. I'm sorry, Boise's 4-0. My bad. Number 2 Alabama over Southern Miss 49-7. Bama is 4-0. USM is 2-2. Number 4 LSU over Vanderbilt 66-38. LSU 4-0. Vandy 0-3. Number 9 Florida over Tennessee 34-3. Florida 4-0. Tennessee 1-3. Number 13, Wisconsin over number 11, Michigan, 35-14. This game is all but proved that A, Wisconsin's for real, and B, Michigan's a fraud, it looks like. Wisconsin's 3-0, Michigan 2-1. Number 23, Cal over Ole Miss, 28-20. Cal 4-0, Ole Miss 2-2. So Cal looks like a team that's for real. Syracuse over Western Michigan, 52-33. Syracuse bounces back. They're 2-2. Western Michigan's 2-2 as well. Wake Forest over Elan, 49-7. Wake is 4-0. Elan's 2-2. BC over Rutgers, 30-16. This was a game I forgot to pick on the podcast. I obviously had Boston College winning and covering the 7 points because Rutgers is a joke and they're the worst team in the Power 5, so it makes all the sense in the world to back the Boston College Eagles in that spot as BC goes to 3-1 and Rutgers drops to 1-2. Iowa State over UL Monroe 72-20, an impressive win for the Cyclones. They are 2-1 and ULM is 1-2. Indiana over UConn 38-3. Indiana's 3-1. UConn's 1-2. Michigan State over Northwestern 31-10. Michigan State is 3-1. Northwestern's 1-2. So good bounce back win for Sparty. Army over Morgan State 52-21. Army 3-1. Morgan State 0-3. Coastal Carolina over UMass 62-28. Coastal 3-1. UMass 0-4. Louisiana over Ohio 45-25. A nice win for UL Lafayette. They're 3-1 and Ohio's 1-3. Troy over Akron 35-7. Troy 2-1. Akron 0-4. Eastern Michigan over Central Connecticut State 34-29. So a letdown spot for Eastern Michigan, but they win. They're 3-1, and so is Central Connecticut State. Number 6, Ohio State over Miami of Ohio 76-5. Ohio State is one of the best teams in the country, obviously. They're 4-0. Miami of Ohio 1-3. Number 8, Auburn over number 17, Texas A&M 28-20. Nobody had Auburn winning this game, even as they're the higher-ranked team. But A&M was obviously favored. Everyone and their brother loved A&M. Good for Auburn to come out and prove some doubters wrong. They're 4-0, and A&M is 2-2. Now Alabama has a second challenger to them in their own division. Pitt over number 15 UCF 35-34. A huge win for Pitt. Great bounce-back win after that loss to Penn State. They're 2-2, and UCF is 3-1. Number 22 Washington over BYU 45-19. Washington 3-1, BYU 2-2. SMU over number 25 TCU 41-38. A great upset for SMU. They're 4-0. TCU is 2-1. Buffalo over Temple 38-22. A lot of people like this as an upset pick, and Buffalo is now 2-2, and Temple's 2-1. Kent State over Bowling Green 62-20. Kent is 2-2. Bowling Green is 1-3. Tulsa over Wyoming 24-21. Tulsa is 2-2. Wyoming's 3-1. UAB over South Alabama 35-3. UAB 3-0. USA 1-3. Florida State over Louisville 35-24. Nice win for FSU. They are 2-2, and Louisville is 2-2. Appalachian State over North Carolina 34-31. A good win for App State. They are 3-0, and UNC is 2-2. So predictable regression for Mac Brown's team after starting the year 2-0. Miami over Central Michigan 17-12. Yikes is the word I can describe for this. They're 2-2, and Central Michigan's 2-2. So Miami may not be the team that we think they are. Mississippi State over Kentucky 28-13. Good win for the Bulldogs. Good bounce back win. They're 3-1, and UK is 2-2. Or 2-2, I should say. Missouri over South Carolina 34-14. Missouri is 3-1. South Carolina is 1-3. West Virginia over Kansas 29-24. West Virginia is 3-1. Kansas is 2-2. New Mexico over New Mexico State 55-52. New Mexico is 2-1. New Mexico State is 0-4. Liberty over Hampton 62-27. Liberty is 2-2, and Hampton's 2-2. East Carolina over William and Mary 19-7. East Carolina is 2-2, and so is William and Mary. FAU over Wagner 42-7. FAU is 2-2. Wagner's 0-4. Number 16 Oregon over Stanford 21-6. Oregon is 3-1, and Stanford's 1-3. Justin Herbert had a good game. KJ Costello did not. Number 21, Virginia over Old Dominion, 28-17. So Virginia avoids the upset trap. They are 4-0. Old Dominion is 1-2. Arkansas State over Southern Illinois, 41-28. Arkansas State, 2-2. SIU, 2-2. Texas State over Georgia State, 37-34 in triple overtime. Wow. Texas State 1-3, Georgia State 2-2. Baylor over Rice 21-13. Baylor is now 3-0 and Rice is 0-4. Clemson over Charlotte 52-10. Number one team in the country obviously improves to 4-0. and Charlotte drops to 2-2. Number 12, Texas over Oklahoma State, 36-30. This was a fun back and forth game. Texas 3-1 and Oklahoma State 3-1. San Jose State upsets Arkansas 31-24. A huge win for that San Jose State program. One of the worst teams in the country goes into an SEC school and beats them outright. They are now 2-1 and Arkansas is 2-2. North Texas over to UTSA 45-3. North Texas is now 2-2 and UTSA is 1-3. Number 3 Georgia over number 7 Notre Dame 23-17. Georgia 4-0. Notre Dame 2-1. Nevada over UTEP 37-21. Nevada 3-1. UTEP 1-2. Nebraska over Illinois 42-38. Nebraska 3-1. Illinois 2-2. Nebraska had to come from behind to beat Illinois after Illinois was up by 2 touchdowns on them earlier in the game. Colorado upsets number 24 Arizona State 34-31. I called that one. And Arizona State drops to 3-1. Colorado improves to 3-1. Fresno over Sacramento State 34-20. Fresno gets on the board. They're 1-3. Sacramento State is 2-2. Fresno is 1-2. Toledo over Colorado State 41-35. Toledo 2-1. Colorado State 1-3. UCLA over 19 Washington State 67-63. This was the game of the weekend in college football. UCLA 1-3, Washington State 3-1. Utah State over San Diego State 23-17. Utah State is 2-1 and San Diego State is 3-1. So give Utah State credit. A lot of people thought that they were an overvalued favorite, but they came through and they covered. Hawaii over Central Arkansas 35-16. Hawaii is now 3-1 on the season. Central Arkansas is also 3-1 on the season. Baseball, we're just going to go over scores from yesterday and look ahead to today and go over the standings. Yanks over the Blue Jays 8-3. Luis Severino pitched very well in that game for the Yanks. Orioles over the Mariners 2-1 as the Orioles try to avoid having the worst record again. Rays falls short against the Red Sox 7-4. Bad loss for them. Tigers over the White Sox 6-3. So the Tigers, worst team in the league, gets a win over the White Sox. Mets over the Reds 6-3. Mets kind of still in it. Marlins over the Nats 5-3. Brutal loss for Washington. A team that could potentially drop to the second wild card against the Yelich-less Brewers. Yikes. Giants over the Braves 4-1. Astros over the Angels 13-5. Astros a half game up on the Yankees for home field advantage. Brewers over the Pirates 4-3. Brewers coming up with a sweep over the Pirates. Twins over the Royals 12-8. Twins already locked into that 3 seed. Cardinals over the Cubs 3-2. So the Cardinals sweep 4 at Wrigley. Rangers over the A's 8-3. Bad loss for the A's. Padres over the Diamondbacks 6-4 in 10 innings on a walk-off homer. Dodgers over the Rockies 7-4. Big game for the Dodgers. Big win for them. Trying to lock up National League's best record and have a chance to leapfrog the Yankees in the Dodgers for best record. I can't exclude the Dodgers. They can, I think, conceivably pass the Yankees. I don't know if they can pass the Dodgers because the Yankees have the Rays this week who are fighting for the wild card, and the Rangers who are trying a little bit here to, they're moving into a new ballpark and, they're playing hard for their new manager. And you had the Indians defeat the Phillies 10-1 on Sunday Night Baseball. The Phillies are finished. The Indians are a team that looks like they might steal one of these wild card spots in the American League. Maybe they have home field advantage, and that's not good news for whomever is the 1 seed, whether that's the Yankees or Oakland. 5 games today on the slate. 7 o'clock, Phillies Nationals, Orioles Blue Jays, Red Sox Rays, Mets hosting the Marlins, and at 9:40 on ESPN Plus, the Cardinals at the Diamondbacks. So a short slate here tonight in baseball. Standings. The Yankees have already clinched the American League East. The Twins have not yet clinched the American League Central. They're 4 games up on the Indians as we speak. Houston has clinched the West. And by the way, the Twins have not clinched a playoff berth yet, let alone a division title. National League East, the Braves have clinched it. That's over. The Cardinals have clinched a playoff berth over the weekend against the Cubs, who are now 7 back of the Cards in the division, 4 back of the Brewers for the wild card. They are finished, in my mind, the Chicago Cubs. And by the way, them and the Mets tied in the loss column. So, heck, the Mets might finish with a better season, or better record than the Cubs. Who would have thought that? Dodgers have that division locked up. They've had that division locked up for a while. Wild card. American League, the leader right now, Oakland Athletics up 2 games, and Cleveland and Tampa are tied for the second. And that's interesting. If that's a play-in game in a week from today, I don't know who I'd pick. That would be for sure an underplay. And that under would probably be 7.5. And if I'm the Rays, I go with Snell here. And if I'm the Indians, you go with Bieber in this spot. And I don't know who I'd pick in the game. Probably Cleveland if that's the matchup. But you never know with injuries and stuff. If Jose Ramirez is back in a week and say they're playing that game, then I think Cleveland's a no-brainer. But who knows? I think they're obviously the better team. And we'll absolutely see what happens. National League, Milwaukee and the Nationals are currently tied right now. Cubs 4 back, Mets 4.5 back. I don't think either of those two teams are catching. I think it's a matter of home field advantage or not. And Milwaukee's schedule down the stretch is easy. They have the Reds and the Rockies on the road. I know they're different on the road than they are at home, but they obviously the Reds I think might step up their game a little bit, although the Brewers have owned Cincinnati. And then the Rockies, you never know with the Rockies. That's a team that's falling apart at the end of the year. I wonder if they'll fire Bud Black. National schedule down the stretch. They have the Philadelphia Phillies at home for 5, including a doubleheader tomorrow. And then they close the season at home against the Indians. So, big series, interleague series between 2 good teams. Indians playing for a wild card spot, and then obviously the Nationals playing for home field advantage in that wild card game. I think it's a no-brainer that the Nationals will be playing the Dodgers in the first round, and then it'll be Cardinals Atlanta in the first round as well. And then Twins against Yankees or Houston, probably Yankees because Houston's half game up. And then Houston against Cleveland. Yikes. Houston's in for a rude awakening in the first round if they play the Indians. I'm not saying that they're going to lose, but I'm saying that the Indians, whomever they play, whether it's Yankees or Astros, are going to give them a 5-game series because they have the pitching and the bullpen and the offense to make those teams work. Last year's team, I think, just flat out quit for whatever reason, and some of those guys weren't healthy last year, and I think this is a better Indians team with a better lineup, and I think they're going to give whomever they play in the first round, if it's them, fits. And if it's Oakland, I think that they'll give the Yankees and Astros fits with their offense, but not really with their pitching. So I think Cleveland is a team I think is more likely to pull off a round 1 upset than obviously Tampa Bay or Oakland. And if I'm New York, I kind of not tank, but you can have Houston have home field advantage because the Indians are scary. They're very scary. And that's a team that I think can expose Houston and New York at the back end of their rotation because the Cleveland has the better starting staff than both of those teams. Certainly the Yankees, but arguably Houston too, especially with how poorly Wade Miley's pitched. I'd rather have the Indians' back end than Houston's back end. Although the Yankees' starting pitching's been better, especially with the return of Luis Severino, and he's looked excellent. He's been great coming back. 9 scoreless innings so far, granted against 2 bad teams in the Blue Jays and the Angels. But their rotation's been better sans the Domingo Germán incident from last week. So it's going to be an interesting home stretch here. WNBA. 2 games from yesterday. The Aces defeat the Mystics 92-75 as they extend the series another day. And they get the win at home. Liz Cambridge had 28 points to lead the way for Vegas. She had a bad game in game 2. It was good that she rebounded. Asia Wilson had 21 with 8 boards. Kayla McBride had 18. Jackie Young and Kelsey Plum didn't do anything, but they got away with that because their other 3 great players came through for them. Elena Deladon had 22. She couldn't do it by herself. Christy Tolliver had 14 off the bench. Elise Messelman only had 6, so she regressed from a great game 2. And then the Sun defeat the Sparks 78-56. And the Sun advanced to the WNBA Finals as they get the huge blowout win on the road. And the Sparks really just didn't have it offensively. Jasmine Thomas led the way for the Sun with 29 points. Alyssa Thomas and Jaquel Jones had a combined 6. So you got to give Thomas a lot of credit. By the way, Candace Parker only had 4. Chelsea Gray only had 7. Nneka Ogwumike had 17. Chima Ogwumike had 4. Kelsey Brown had 4. So nobody really on the Sparks stepped up. And listen, I'm no fan of Derek Fisher at all, but his players just did not step up in a home elimination playoff game. And that's very disappointing for that team, especially because they were favored to win that series. Guess the lines. Week 5 college football. It's going to be fun. I'm going to try to get this done quick. So without further ado, here we go. The Memphis Tigers host the Navy Shipmen. I have Memphis favored by 8.5. Memphis is favored by 10.5. Duke at Virginia Tech. I have Virginia Tech by 12. Virginia Tech is favored by 2.5. So that's a small line there. Next up you have Penn State at Maryland. I have Penn State by 5.5. Penn State's favored by 7. San Jose State at Air Force. I have Air Force by 12.5. Air Force is favored by 19.5. Arizona State at number 15. Cal. I have Cal by 7. It's Cal by 5. Saturday, Texas Tech at number 6, Oklahoma. I have Oklahoma by 23. Oklahoma's favored by 26. Northwestern at number 8, Wisconsin. I have Wisconsin by 17.5. They're favored by a whopping 24. Middle Tennessee at number 14, Iowa. I have Iowa by 25.5. It's 24. Rutgers at number 20, Michigan. I have Michigan by 30.5. It's 28. Number 23, Texas A&M versus Arkansas from Arlington. I have A&M by 13.5. A&M's favored by 23.5. I was off there. Holy Cross at Syracuse. I have Syracuse by 42. It's by 37.5. Northern Illinois at Vanderbilt. I have Vanderbilt by 16.5. Vanderbilt's favored by 6.5. Kansas at TCU. I have TCU by 18.5. They're favored by 16.5. BYU at Toledo. I have Toledo getting 2 against BYU. And Toledo's getting a 1.5, so I was a half point off. Buffalo at Miami of Ohio. Buffalo by 8. It's Miami of Ohio by 2.5. Wow. Central Michigan at Western Michigan. I have Western by 12. It's Western by 17. Delaware at Pitt. I have Pitt by 35. It's Pitt by 28. Number 1, Clemson at North Carolina. I have Clemson by 14. I just thought that because of Carolina's hot start and them surprising some people. But no, they're favored by 26.5. Yikes. Ole Miss at number 12, Alabama. I have Bama by 27.5. They're favored by 35. Number 18, Virginia at number 10, Notre Dame. I have Dame by 12.5. It's Dame by 11. Number 21, USC at number 17, Washington. I have Washington by 8.5. They're favored by 9.5. Indiana at number 15, Michigan State. I have Michigan State by 24.5. They're favored by 14.5. FAU at Charlotte. FAU by 7.5. They're only favored by 1. Georgia Tech at Temple. I have Temple by 9. They're favored by 10. Wake at BC. This was a tough one. I had this listed as a pick'em. It is actually Wake by 7. Iowa State at Baylor. I have Iowa State by 1. It's Iowa State by 2.5. Minnesota at Purdue. I have Purdue by 3. It's Minnesota by 1. Coastal Carolina at App State. I have App State by 16.5. It's 16. Half point off. Akron at UMass. I have Akron by 10.5. It's 6.5. Towson at number 9, Florida. I have Florida by 45.5. It's 33. SMU at South Florida. I have South Florida by 2.5. It's SMU by 7.5. Wow. And I didn't realize that SMU was 4-0, so that was a mistake by me, or else I I probably would have said 4.5, and I still would have been off a little bit. Cincinnati and Marshall, I have Cincy by 3. It's by 2.5, so half point off. New Mexico at Liberty, I have Liberty by 4. It's 7.5. East Carolina at Old Dominion, I have East Carolina by 3. It's Old Dominion by 1. Arkansas State at Troy, I have Troy by 3. It's Troy by 7. Louisiana at Georgia Southern, I have Louisiana by 1. It's by 3.5. Mississippi State at number 7 Auburn, I have Auburn by 11. Auburn's favored by 11. So my first correct pick on the podcast today. This one I was way off. UConn at number 22 UCF, I have UCF by 28. They're favored by a whopping 42.5. Repeat, 42.5. Number 24, Kansas State at Oklahoma State. I have Oklahoma State by 7.5. It's 4. South Alabama at UL Monroe. I have UL Monroe by 13. It's UL Monroe by 16. Nichols at Texas State. The line wasn't posted yet. I have Texas State by 26.5. UTEP at Southern Miss. I have Southern Miss by 20.5. Southern Miss is favored by 25. UAB at Western Kentucky. I have UAB by 4. It's by 3. Louisiana Tech at Rice. I have Tech by 10.5. It's Tech by 11. Stanford at Oregon State. I have Stanford by 7.5. And Stanford's only favored by 3. Number 5, Ohio State at Nebraska. I have Ohio State by 10.5. It's 17.5. Wow. NC State at Florida State. I have Florida State by 9.5. They're favored by 5.5. So, a little off there. Kentucky at South Carolina. I have South Carolina by 4.5. It's 3. Colorado State at Utah State. I have 16.5. Utah State's favored by 23. UNLV at Wyoming. I have Wyoming by 10. Wyoming's favored by 10.5. Fresno State at New Mexico State. I have Fresno by 15. Fresno's favored by 17.5. Houston at North Texas. I have Houston by 5.5. Actually, North Texas is favored by 1.5, so I was off on that one. Washington State at number 19. Utah. I have Utah by 10. It's Utah by 6.5. UCLA at Arizona. I have Arizona by 5.5. Arizona's favored by 7.5. And then Hawaii at Nevada. I have Nevada by 7.5. It's Nevada by 2.5. Best bet of the day. Brought to you by DraftKings. Okay, this is tough because there's not much baseball on and you have the Monday night game. So I'm obviously going to take the Chicago Bears on the money line against the Redskins. So you have that. You have in baseball, by the way, Bears minus 245 on the money line. And then I'm going to go with the Nats at home against the Phillies. It's Corbin against Eflin. I'm going to go with the Rays at home against the Red Sox. It's Blake Snell. The Rays need that game. Marlins Mets. I'm taking the Mets and Steven Matz at home. And I'm going to go with Adam Wainwright and the Cardinals on the road at the Diamondbacks. Wainwright's been on fire lately, so why not? So $6.82 odds, wagering $1 payout of $7.82. That's it for the podcast today. I'll be back tomorrow recapping Monday Night Football. Guess the lines for week number 4 in the NFL. Baseball, we'll pick the game 4 between the Aces and the Mystics. I'm going to have Alex Kiliar on tomorrow as we'll talk about the home stretch of the baseball season with the week to go in the regular season. Preview the playoffs a little bit and go over what has gone on in the NFL so far. Hope you guys have a great day, everybody.